Well, the drums of diplomacy are beating louder and stronger. All eyes are on Pakistan, where round two of the high-stakes negotiations are going to be kicking off, perhaps as early as tomorrow. Well, Pakistan has reportedly tightened the security in the capital, Islamabad, in anticipation of possible US-Iran talks. Now, this comes hours after US President Donald Trump announced on social media that American negotiators will be traveling to Pakistani capital later today for possible talks aimed at ending the US-Israel war on Iran. But it isn't that simple. A major cloud of uncertainty has now emerged. Iran has said that they will not be going to Pakistan for talks for peace. Why? Well, watch this. To understand that, let me take you through what has happened in the last 12 hours. Timing is quite important here. There is heightened escalation at the Strait of Hormuz when there is just a few hours left for the ceasefire to officially come to an end. Now you have the US intercepting an Iranian-flagged cargo ship in the Gulf. This is as part of its naval blockade. In fact, this understandably has irked Iran. Iran has decided now, or has said at least, that it is not going to be participating in the peace talks, saying that any negotiations can't be at a time when ceasefire pact is being violated in this manner. So Iran's military command has said that United States has violated the 2-week ceasefire, and in fact it is going to be retaliating very soon. Now the biggest concern is that will the ceasefire and talks collapse? That's the question. Is peace already hitting a wall? Well, in the run-up to the second round of talks in Islamabad, US and Iran face several key sticking points as they struggle to find common ground. What are these sticking points? Tell me all about it. Well, we are going to show you what exactly are these sticking points, the big hurdles when it comes to Truce Talks 2.0. First is going to be the fate of Iran's uranium stockpiles. Of course, that is something which has been discussed because you have the US. Washington has said US will take Iran's nuke dust. This is President Trump himself. And Tehran has said there is going to be no Iranian transfer to the US. Then you have the second one, where you have on uranium, Trump saying Iran will have to halt its enrichment of uranium indefinitely. This is even for civil purposes, for energy purposes. Iran has said 5-year pause to nuke enrichment is the best that they are likely to do. Washington wants that US Navy has blocked Iran in Hormuz. Still, they actually open Hormuz for everyone, saying that either Hormuz is open for all or it's open for none. Then you have Tehran saying Hormuz is under Iran's jurisdiction. So the jurisdiction of Hormuz is one of the biggest sticking points, as we have seen in the last few days itself. So these are the big sticking points. So even if the two nations decide to meet in Islamabad, the question is, what next after that? In fact, let's tell you how the confusion and uncertainty doesn't just end there. There is now a fresh twist as well over who's going to be leading the US delegation. Last time, remember, it was led by the Vice President JD Vance. Now, while the White House says that JD Vance will be heading the team for talks in Pakistan this time as well, President Trump says Vance will not be attending it. Clearly, there are mixed signals there, confusions there emerging from Washington camp as well. Even as diplomacy is moving forward, this confusion continues to dominate this entire talk. But let's get you more breaking news which is coming in. Now Iran doubts US's intentions, as it has been doing again and again amidst the talks. Now you have reports coming in that Iran doubts if US really has the right intention when it goes in for the second round of talks. In fact, about what Arakchi has already told Pakistan is what we are picking up, saying that US is not serious about diplomacy. Let me go across to Mayank. Mayank, this is very interesting. You have US saying President Trump, on the face of it, is making all the right noise. He says we are going to send in our delegation, we are going to end this war, but their actions have been speaking louder than words for Iran. Iran has reason to mistrust the intentions. Why? Well, there seems to be a bit of a problem there with the audio connection of Mayank. We are going to try and reconnect with him. Well, Iran has been flagging what it feels is bad faith by the Americans. that on one hand, you are asking us to come for talks in Islamabad. On the other hand, you have seized our Iranian vessel. Remember, US has fired at this Iranian vessel, has taken control of this Iranian vessel. And in retaliation, Iran has fired and struck the US warships with its own drone strikes. So in this midst of this lack of any kind of understanding between the two warring nations, with this deep trust deficit, will the talks in Islamabad yield any gain? That's the question. Let me go across to Mayank. Mayank, this deep trust deficit, something that Iran has been talking about again and again. They simply don't trust each other, especially Iran.
Definitely, and the significant part has been the way the vessel of Iran, it has been, its engine has been made immobile with a missile which was fired upon it after the warning shot. Because this signifies the way the blockade from, at least naval blockade from the US has come into effect. If you go by the past, Iran has been controlling the passage and regulating the passage of the merchant vessels and civil vessels from the narrow strip of Strait of Hormuz. So what you see is actually both sides have something or the other to pressurize each other before the talks take place. Why am I saying it is actually I have to bring out two trends which we have observed and we have brought it out in times now. It is that while the mediation started right in the beginning, the Iran had been saying that no mediation is taking place. But then after some time we heard that Iran had said that they were not, the conditions which were offered to them were not acceptable. The second point came when the first round of talk, which was on 11th April, was to take place. Iran had again said that they won't be sending any kind of delegation. But we saw huge delegation with 70 members, including the governor of the central bank was also part of the delegation. Again, delegation was sent. Before that, they had denied. Now the same thing happening this side. Now, second posturing which has been made is that both sides have continuously said that the fingers are on the trigger, whereas he was said that they will be blowing down all kind of bridges and they'll be destroying to the Stone Age. That was the kind of statements which were made from the US side. So it is part of larger part of posturing and pressurizing the other side to accept maximum conditions from one side or the other. Only difference this time has been the way the merchant vessel of Iran has been handled, or it has been fired upon and made immobile. We have to wait and watch because stakes are very high. And I repeat, stakes are very high for both sides, which is the US and Iran. So we need to watch the way the things will be decided upon by these senior officials and leaders, which is political leaders and IRGC from Iran. And as US has already said and announced, its delegation is going to reach Islamabad.
Well, Mayank, you talk about the US delegation. Do we have any kind of clarity who's going to be part of this delegation? Because I believe you have issues, security issues, which have been raised about Vice President JD Vance traveling to Islamabad with less than 24 hours of notice to the FBI and the CIA, saying that it's not possible for us to ensure his security. Is that going to be one of the biggest problems when it comes to Vance's presence?
So last time it had happened that Pakistan had declared 2 days public holiday. And there's always a standard operating procedure, which entails, that the sanitization process is started much before the very important designate person arrives to a particular destination. So in this case, there would be some kind of a SOP which will be followed. Why am I saying it is actually because, as I had said earlier, these are high-stake talks. And Iran had been accepting the participation of JD Vance, the vice president. And he was the voice which was against the war, against the operations being started on Iran.
Right.
So there's a confidence in Iranians aspect that they had been wanting JD Vance to participate in this high-stake talk. But we believe that
Iran wants JD Vance to be present because, well, they haven't been very happy with the others, such as the president or even Pete Hegseth. They feel, at least that's what sources tell us, that they can trust JD Vance more than the other top officials of the US. But the question is, first, will Vance be there because of his security details? And the second question, will Iran actually send in a delegation when again they've been posturing and saying they won't this time around? We'll have to wait and see. Thank you so much, Mayank, for getting us all those details. With that, we are going to be slipping into a short break. Don't go anywhere. We return in 2 minutes.